Yes, ma'am. All right, we're on the record outside the presence of the jury. Mr. Milner wanted to make a record on the ruling at the sidebar conference.
If we may, Your Honor, the defense would like to, in accordance with our both 5th, 6th, 14th Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution, as well as Articles 1, Sections 9 and 10 of the state constitution, we have a Texas due process right, a Texas due course of law right, and a federal right to cross-examine this witness. We have a federal right to present our case and our case theory as we see it. We have the exact same rights under the Texas Constitution. We have taken what the state knows to be about 15 to 20 hours of videotape, and we have videotaped interviews of this witness, and we cut it down to certain segments where we would like to show the court and the jury what this woman went through in terms of the lies she told, how she lies. I will point out specifically in direct examination, she didn't tell the whole truth. That is the understatement of the century. These are extrinsic evidence, and they want to say that this is a hearsay situation, and it is not. But the point is, this is proof positive that when she said the whole truth to this jury in direct examination this morning, she was again lying to this jury. This jury is seeing her testify here on this court after she's had years to kind of get her story together. They need to see exactly what she looks like when she lies. It has been recorded by the police and the prosecutors. They have provided it to us. It will not be unduly burdensome. These tapes are maybe in total around 4 minutes. 4 minutes for one and 6 minutes for the other. 10 minutes is not too much time. We're entitled to present our case the way we would like to present it, just as the prosecution is entitled to present their case the way they want to present. Our trial theory is when Crystal gets boxed into something getting caught, when Crystal gets boxed into something, gets caught in her lies, her go-to deal is to blame Brenda. These two exhibits, which are, for record purposes at this time, defendants exhibits 2 and 3, we would like to play these for the jury and show this jury exactly what this woman looks like doing exactly what the defensive theory is in this case, and that is when she's caught, she blames Brenda. I think that's been pretty clear where we're going since day one. My co-counsel here has a case that I think the court should consider before it rules.
May I, Your Honor? Yes, ma'am. Alonzo versus State, 67 Southwest 3rd, 346 at 359.
I'm sorry, what was the?
67 Southwest 3rd, 346. And the jump site is 359. It's 2001 case, Court of Appeals Waco, I believe. The trial court in that case erred in excluding video evidence that supported the defensive theory of the case. An alternative perpetrator, the defendant's murder conviction was reversed because it was a due process violation. Alonzo versus State recognizes the fact that there's a constitutional right to present a defensive theory. And the quote from that is, the rules of evidence, quote, must be flexible and must sometimes bend to the due process rights of the defendant. In this case, our defensive theory is, as Mr. Milner said, that Crystal Cortez did this on her own, and that when she was boxed in and confronted with her lies repeatedly over and over and over again, what she did is blame Brenda Delgado. The videos that we'd like to admit show that how when she's confronted, that's exactly what she does. That's our entire theory of the case, and denying us the right to play this video denies us our constitutional right to due process. I'd also point out that Alonzo versus State, the court noted that video statements are particularly powerful evidence because they let the jury evaluate the demeanor of the person giving the statement to evaluate credibility.
Thank you very much. All right, and in this case, the jury can certainly evaluate the demeanor of the witness because she's sitting on the witness stand. The defendant's request to play excerpts of videotaped interviews is denied. The defense has an absolute right to ask her any question with regarding to what she lied about, how she lied, when she lied, but we're not going to play any excerpts from the videotape.
All right. Does the state, I've got the two excerpts here. They are marked as defendants exhibits 2 and 3. These are taken from discovery, which was provided by the prosecutor to the defense. I could either ask Ms. Cortez to watch them and identify that that is her on the video, that is her voice, and that is her speaking.
Judge, I think at this point in time, if you're telling me these are the stuff that we brought from you, I'll take it. I haven't seen these defenses 2 and 3, but I'll take it from Mr. Milner's word. These are actual videos of Ms. Cortez.
All right.
That's what the court.
All right. So the state is stipulating to at least to authentication. So for purposes of the records, the defense offers defense exhibits 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Can I do one of them on the record just before we get to saving time? As the court knows, in the pretrial hearing, an issue came up as to how were certain cell phone record data obtained by the prosecutor. In that pretrial hearing, it became fairly clear that the prosecutors got it from the police, who got it from the federal prosecutors, who got it pursuant to a grand jury subpoena. We've gone through a whole bunch of stuff in discovery over this. Mr. Lord said that he would contact the assistant U.S. attorney, who was Rick Calvert. He did. Mr. Calvert spoke with me. Mr. Calvert then sent me what is referred to as a 6E as an Edward letter. He sent me the copy that was relevant to grand jury materials here. I have typed up and I've provided this to the prosecution. What I entitled what is marked for identification purposes Defendant's Exhibit 1 and what is titled Defendant's Trial Objection 1. When they start getting into those records, which I think it's going to be after this witness or this afternoon, I would like to, just for record purposes, make trial objection number 1 and have it be what I have put here rather than me make a long objection in front of the jury. If that's okay.
And this is exactly what we talked about the other day, so I think just for efficiency purposes, you want to just make that objection now, and that way we don't have to stop and do this again, because the court's already ruled on this, so if we, and that's okay with me if you want to do it that
You
way.
have a running, if you want a running objection, that's fine.
That's what I like. Okay, for purposes of the cell, not the cell, and so my record is clear, not the cell phone data that they got from the cell phones themselves. In other words, Kristopher Love, they got information off him. Brenda Delgado wouldn't have standing to challenge that search. We're not talking about that. Kristopher Cortez, this witness here, allowed them to do a cell phone dump on her. What I'm talking about is when they went behind and they went to the cell phone providers, and it is specifically Metro PCS records relating to the cell phone of Kristopher Cortez, Metro PCS records relating to the cell phone records and record data of Kristopher Love, and then there's one that is labeled as a ghost phone. That phone number is 469-394-1752. The defendant would object to the admissibility of any of those records, the data and records that they got from the cell service provider, and for all the reasons stated in Defendant's Exhibit 1, and as I understand, the court is overruling that objection, and I can have a running objection now without making any specific objection when that evidence is offered in this trial.
Yes, sir.
Nothing else.
I'm sorry.
Move to
Are you offering that?
move to admit Defendant's Exhibit 1 for record purposes only.
No objection.
Admit.
Sorry.
Okay.
Is that 231 and 7?
All rise.
Please be seated.
This court says, in direct examination, you had testified that among the other plans, one of them was to inject her with, her meaning Dr. Hatcher, inject her with heroin. Another alternative was to inject her with a sedative. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
If we take you back through this whole process, the first time the police interviewed you was September 4 of 2015, correct?
Yes.
That was 2 days after the murder of Dr. Hatcher, correct?
Yes.
We go fast forward in October of last year, 2018. That is when you testified in the trial of Kristopher Love, correct?
Yes.
Is it a true statement that you never said one thing about heroin or a sedative?
Yes, that's a true statement.
So this, and that would have been October of 2018. That would have been a full 3 years after the murder of Dr. Hatcher, correct?
Correct.
And you were questioned in that trial by Mr. Brooks in this courtroom in front of a different jury. And then you were also questioned by a defense lawyer in that trial as well, correct?
Correct.
Through all of the questions Mr. Brooks asked you, through all of the questions that the defense attorney asked you, is it a true statement that it came up about injecting Dr. Hatcher?
Yes.
But is it also likewise true that you never said one word about heroin or a sedative?
That's correct.
You grew up in the Oak Cliff part of Texas, Oak Cliff part of Dallas, correct?
Yes.
Where specifically? What's major area?
45 in Illinois.
45 Illinois. All right, so you're not too far from the zoo and stuff like that, west of there?
A little west of there.
All right. Growing up in Oak Cliff, would it be a truthful statement that you saw people that were in gangs?
No.
You never saw anybody in a gang growing up in Oak Cliff?
No.
You ever seen anybody in a gang? Ever?
Being here, yes.
No, I don't mean in jail. I mean out in the real world.
No, I never paid attention to them.
All right. Growing up in school, just in the neighborhood, you didn't know if anybody was rumored that, hey, that guy's a Crip or that guy's a Blood or anything?
No.
Or any other gang? I'm not limiting.
No, it's just neighborhoods, not gangs.
It was no one ever heard anybody, the whole time you grew up, never heard anybody being in a gang.
No.
By your statement, you said what you're now claiming is Brenda Delgado claimed to be part of the cartel or connected to the cartel, correct?
Correct.
If I say cartel, do you have some idea what that word means?
No. An organization, maybe?
How old are you now?
27?
All right, you spent some time in jail. I asked you about gangs. Did you see anything that was remotely gang possible growing up? You said no, but you had seen it in jail.
Yes.
You've been in there for almost 4 years.
Yes.
And I say the word cartel, there's no meaning to that?
Just people that are together in organization. I don't know specific names.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. If she said she was connected to the cartel and that word means nothing to you, then why does that mean anything that you'd say to them? Well, she's connected with the cartel, and that somehow explains what she's capable of doing.
Rephrase your question.
All right, let me back up. We have organized criminal street gangs, Crips, Bloods, whatever all they call themselves. And then you get above that, you got what are called cartels, which are heavy operations. We hear about cartels doing all kinds of things. I asked the question kind of assuming you knew what that meant, but are you telling this jury now when I say the word cartel, you don't have any clue what is suggested by the word cartel?
I just knew it's just an organization. I don't know.
Walmart is an organization.
I don't know.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Okay.
I'm not. You don't know me, and I don't know you. True.
Correct.
All right. But part of your whole story here is Brenda is able to do what she supposedly was able to do. That is, get a lifetime supply of drugs and lots of money and all that. Brenda was able to do that because she was connected to the cartel, or a cartel, or the cartels. That's what you've been telling people for almost 4 years, correct?
Yes.
So let's go back to square one. If you don't know what a cartel is and don't have any idea what is suggested by a cartel, then how does it have any meaning to you to start telling a man named Detective Barnes, who you really didn't even know when you first met him on September 4, other than he's a policeman? Why do you bring up cartel if that doesn't mean anything?
That's what she told me. So.
But if she said, I'm with the cartel, and you don't know what that means, and that could be, I'm with Walmart, I'm with the CVS Pharmacy Company, I'm with the Apple Computer Company, it's an organization and nothing more than an organization, then why are you bringing that up? If it is really true that you do not know or have any clue whatsoever.
Your Honor, is there a question or to this? There's no question here. I'd like to frame the question.
I was in the middle of the question. Then why is it you're asking? Why is it you're saying cartel? If the word cartel honestly has no meaning to you whatsoever, then why do you bring up? Why do you bring it up?
Because that's what she told me.
All right, why does it have any meaning to you if you don't know what cartel means?
Because that's what she told me, like I said.
If she did as you say she did, and she said, you know what, I'm with the cartel and I can get an endless supply of money and drugs, why wasn't it not then the next question you asked out of your mouth, well then, what is the cartel? Because if you can get an endless supply of drugs and money, I want to be a part. Why didn't you ask what it is if you did not know?
That wasn't what we were talking about at the time.
But she said she's with the cartel.
Right, but the whole conspiracy was to murder Kendra Hatcher, not to become part of a cartel.
I understand that. Let's talk about, we'll come back, but murder for hire. If I hire Mr. Lord, you know Mr. Lord, right?
Yes.
He's a nice guy, right?
Yes.
All right. Let's say, you don't know it, but he and I are really bad guys. When we're not lawyers, we do bad things. And I try to hire him to murder somebody. And I tell him I have the means to really pay him off. Let's assume he's an assassin for hire. And I'm lying. I really don't have the means. I don't have that kind of money.
Okay.
And I tell him, if you'll do this, if you'll go murder that person, and he really is a bad guy that would do something like that, and I tell him and he goes and does it, and then I don't have the means to pay, who's the next person that gets murdered?
I don't know.
just a little common sense. If I promise someone who's willing to kill for money, and I promise them money, and they go and they kill whoever it is because they're a bad, evil, despicable human being, and they would murder an innocent person for money. If I do that, and I tell them, I'll pay you when you get done, and then they get done, and I say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the money right now, can you come back next week? Who's the next person that gets killed?
I guess it would be you.
Me. So your story here, did Detective Barnes ever ask you if you knew what cartel meant or what the cartel meant, what that term would mean?
No, I don't believe so.
He never did he?
No.
In all the hours that an experienced police detective questioned you, he never asked you, do you know what the cartel means, did he?
No.
And that, would it be fair to assume from that when you brought up cartel and seemed to talk about what it meant and that somebody could have access to money and drugs if they're connected to the cartel, he just assumed you knew what it meant?
Yeah, but you can't always assume things, can we?
I'll give you that. But you never told him that you didn't know what it meant.
And he never asked.
He didn't ask. Your whole conversation, all these hours and hours and hours of conversation with this detective were sort of premised on the idea that both of you knew when somebody says they're with the cartel, we know what we're talking about. Correct?
Maybe.
He assumed, correct?
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is you sit here now supposedly telling the truth to these citizens on jury. Now you're saying, I don't know what the cartel is, even though I've been in jail for 4 years, I don't have the foggiest clue what is meant by the term cartel other than it's an organization.
Correct.
And that is the absolute sworn truth after having been in jail since September 2015 until today, June 4, 2019.
Yes.
When you were hanging out with Brenda, you did believe she was rich, correct?
Yes.
By comparison, you saw where Dr. Hatcher lived and you saw where Brenda lived.
Yes.
You knew what Dr. Hatcher did for a living.
Correct.
And you knew that Brenda Delgado was a student.
Yes.
So by comparison, would I be correct in saying if one viewed Brenda Delgado as being rich, they would naturally look at Dr. Hatcher as being wealthy?
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Agreed.
Another statement that you made during direct examination, you said that Brenda bought hair dye for both of you. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes.
Did you ever use any hair dye?
No.
Did Brenda ever use any hair dye?
No.
Now, earlier, the prosecutor asked you what words to the effect, and I'm not quoting, but words to the effect that he asked you, well, why did you suddenly start telling the truth? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Is it a true statement that if we go back to September 4 and we come all the way to well into last year, we would need either a computer or a mathematician to count up all the lies you have told in connection with this case?
Correct.
But your mother died November of 2017, correct?
Yes.
And you told this jury before the lunch break that event in my life is what made me feel like I started needing to tell the truth or something to that effect.
Yes.
Is that what you're still telling this jury?
Yes.
So in November of 2017, you started being truthful and coming clean with everything according to you.
Yes.
Is it in fact a true statement that you did not, by any stretch, ever even begin to tell the prosecution until September 21 of 2018 that you were now fully telling the truth.
I told them half the truth. And I was only lying by omission because I wasn't telling them everything.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. You told this jury I had this epiphany, not your words, but in November of 2017, I had this epiphany when my mother died.
Yes.
And I felt like I needed to tell the truth. And you
Yes.
just got through telling these citizens under oath that that's what you did and that you stood by that testimony, correct?
Yes, but I didn't tell them everything. But I did tell them what I did know at that time, but just not everything.
You didn't even begin to start telling what we're getting a version of today until September 21 of 2018.
Correct, because that was the next meeting.
Because that was what?
The next meeting.
You had Mr. Ashford, who we talked about this morning, was your attorney in September of 2018, wasn't he?
Yes.
When you had this epiphany, you could have written him and said, I need to talk to the prosecutors. I need to tell them the whole truth. My mother died, and now I'm looking at the world in a much different way. And you did not do that, did you?
No.
Mr. Ashford was your lawyer in October of 2017.
Yes.
And you didn't do it then either, did you?
No.
You know that Mr. Ashford knows all of these prosecutors, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Ashford could have picked up the phone and called any one of these men day or night. I mean, he told you he knows them personally, didn't he?
Well, not personally, but he knows them, yes.
They're not just acquaintances, known them for years, correct?
I don't know.
All right? It seemed that Mr. Ashford had a very good working relationship with the three gentlemen, for record purposes and identifying the prosecution team, the three gentlemen to the left of me, that it seemed like Mr. Ashford had a very good relationship with them.
Pretty well.
Right? So October 2017, December 2017, the month after your mother passes, did you contact Mr. Ashford and say, I need to talk to these prosecutors, I've had this epiphany, or I just want to tell the truth because I'm looking at life differently because my mother's passed?
No.
January of 2018, did you do that?
No.
February of 2018?
No.
March of 18?
No.
April of 18?
No.
And I could take you right up to September, couldn't I?
Correct.
And during all of these times, Mr. George Ashford was always representing you, correct?
Yes.
You didn't even begin to tell what you claim is the whole truth until that meeting, September 21, 2018, correct?
Correct.
And you told them, now I'm going to tell you the truth, correct?
Yes.
When the reality is, not only did these prosecutors, but various police detectives have been asking and all but begging you to just simply tell the truth as far back as September 4 of 2015, correct?
Yes.
And despite everything that they asked you, begged you, and pleaded, and they showed you, did they not in fact show you over and over and over ways that they knew that you were lying?
Yes.
And when you got caught in a lie, you'd tell another lie, correct?
Yes.
September 21 of 2018, that is 2 months shy of when your mother passed, correct?
Yes.
Taking you back to the first interview, Detective Eric Barnes, Dallas police officer. You remember him, don't you?
Yes.
These people, when I say they interviewed you for a long time, I mean, you were interviewed by police detectives in recorded interviews spanning maybe as much as 20 hours, correct?
Yes.
On multiple days.
Yes.
Go back to, did you tell him, I'll take you back to the first interview, September 4th. That's when they sent another detective to go get you, and you had your, I believe, sister watch
My son,
your son, what is his name again?
Ivan.
I assume you love your son.
Yes.
Brings you down. Did you tell them you went in and you were only looking for a parking space because y'all were trying to go to the park when you heard the shots?
Correct.
Is that true?
Yes.
And that was a lie that you told to
Yes, it
detective.
was.
You gotta let me finish because the court reporter, she can only type once at the same time. But that was a lie that you told Eric Barnes, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did you tell him at 6:05 and 58 seconds p.m.? I went up to the top and I came down when I heard the shot, and I wanted to get out so my son would be safe and we would get away from the person and you were afraid.
Yes, I also said that.
That was also a lie, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did you look Detective Barnes right in the eyes and say, I was scared for my life and for my son's life?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell him, I don't know who this guy is, I honestly don't?
Yes, I did.
Later in the same interview, at 6:10 p.m., did you say that I was pulling into the garage and then this strange man got in the back seat of the car?
Yes, I did.
Just some unknown stranger hopped in the car with you and your son, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was also a lie, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did you tell Detective Barnes that the man, this strange man, said, don't look at me, don't say anything, nothing will happen to your kid?
Yes, I did say that.
And that was a lie, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yet you followed up that lie looking directly at Eric Barnes in the eyes and you said, honestly, and I'm willing to take a polygraph. Is that true?
That is true.
And he wouldn't take you up on the polygraph, would he?
No.
He knew you were lying, right?
He said it was not admissible in court.
At one point, though, he said, it's not going to do any good because I know you're lying, right?
But he also said it was not admissible in court.
We know it's, all right, if it's not admissible in court, why do you keep telling him over and over, I'll take a lie detector?
Well, that was before I knew it was not admissible in court.
All right, well, let's go back to September 4th. How many times when you said, honestly, I swear to you, I'm telling the truth, I'll take a lie detector? How many times did you volunteer to Detective Barnes that you would take a lie detector?
Multiple times.
Did you tell him, I didn't want the man to hurt my child, and then literally made a motion that the gunman had put the gun to your ribs?
Yes.
Did you tell Eric Barnes that the man put the gun at me?
Yes, I did.
And did you show him with your finger, as I am doing here in this courtroom?
Yes, I did.
And that was also a lie, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell him that he said, don't look at me or anything, just pull into the garage?
Yes.
And you were already under that story, you were already pulling into the garage when the man came and got your car, correct?
Yes.
Later in that same interview, only 11 minutes later, does your story then switch and you start saying, this unknown man was only going to jack her?
Yes.
And number one, this unknown man was only going to jack her. Number one, that is another lie, correct?
Correct.
But so we understand, when you say jack her, what does jack her mean?
Rob.
Rob, pardon me. Rob means to take. He's going to take property from her and threaten her. Pardon me, excuse me. Rob only means that you're going to threaten somebody to physically take money or property from them, right?
I guess, yeah.
I'm not trying to get you the legal definition. When we say, I'm going to rob somebody, I'm going to go threaten them and take money or property from them, right?
That's a fair statement.
Well, let me ask you. You said jacking or jack her.
That means take the items and run away.
Take the items and run away?
Yes.
All right, just you just what do you specifically mean? I'm not some legal definition. I mean, jacker, what did you mean that he was going to do? This unknown man gets in your car, and then you tell him, quote, he was just going to jack her, that's it. What did you mean, jacker? What exactly was he going to do?
Take her belongings.
All right. So was this the point in time when you still claimed you didn't know anything about a gun?
Yes.
Did he ask you, do you know who this guy is?
Yes.
Did you tell him the truth?
I really didn't know him.
Did Detective Barnes ask you if y'all know each other? Or did Detective Barnes ask you words to the effect of, who is this guy so I can go find him and arrest him?
Yes, he did.
I mean, Detective Barnes wasn't asking you, hey, are you personal friends with this guy? Or did Detective Barnes repeatedly ask you, who is the man so we can go arrest him, ID him, whatever? Did he ask you that?
Yes, he did.
And did you in fact lie to him?
Yes.
Did you tell him that once you started admitting, oh, hold on, let me back up. Is it also true that you told him meaning Barnes, you told him, I was driving down by Field Street, we were going to go to the park, and this man jumped in my car.
Yes.
And you told Detective Barnes that, right?
Yes, I did.
And you pleaded with him to believe you, right?
Yes.
And that was also a lie.
Correct.
And this man gets in the car, and then he tells you to drive to the apartment garage. And you told Eric Barnes that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And that was also a lie, wasn't it?
Yes.
Under that lie, you were driving, and a man has jumped in your car, and he's in the back of the car with your son, correct?
Yes.
Did Eric Barnes say, gee, it sounds really suspicious why a mother would let some guy jump in her car when she's got her child back there and not just floor it and hit the gas?
Yes, he did.
Did he carefully explain how that doesn't make any sense?
Yes.
That no mother would be there and not just floor it to get away from the guy?
Yes.
But you told him that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you were lying, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And you were undeterred by him pointing out to you that no mother would have done that. They would have fled, they'd have done something, but they wouldn't have done what you did, yet you, despite what Detective Barnes said, persisted in this lie, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You didn't say, well, you got me. You kept lying, despite the fact that it was obvious you were lying, correct?
Correct.
Then you switch gears. During the interim, he starts pointing out to you that, look, I've looked at the surveillance videos. I know what happened in that garage, right?
Yes.
So now when you're saying stuff specifically like who got out of the car and which side, Detective Barnes was able to confront you and say, I know you're lying, correct?
Yes.
So then you switched your story, and ultimately we get this shooter guy was somebody you knew down in the hood, correct?
Yes.
Specifically, it was somebody you knew down in the Oak Cliff area, correct?
Yes.
Or excuse me, back up. First part of the story, let me back up. If I said that your lies, as it relates to this case, is a very fluid and ongoing, evolving story, would you agree with that characterization?
Yes.
So we go back, and the first part is, or first version when we start picking up somebody at Oak Cliff, was you went down there and you picked up some random guy off the street, correct?
Correct.
You, in essence, told Detective Barnes you went driving around asking people, hey, I need to murder somebody. Would you be interested? Are you free for murder? Did you tell him that?
Yes.
And that was also a lie, wasn't it?
Yes.
But the point was you went and supposedly got somebody that you found at in front of a B&B pawn shop.
Yes.
Where's the B&B pawn shop?
On over Illinois and Bonneville.
So you found this guy, Illinois and Bonneville, in front of a B&B pawn shop, and you found this man and asked him if he would be willing to commit a murder for you.
Yes.
And that was also a lie.
Yes.
And then you said that you gave him $100 to guarantee that he would come meet you later so you could pick him up to do the murder, correct?
Yes.
Or were you telling him, did you tell that man it was going to be a robbery then or a murder then?
I was telling him it was going to be a robbery then.
Right. If we look at everything, like I described your testimony as being fluid and evolving, is it true that it changes a lot?
Yes, it did.
And it changes a lot as to, you know, what happened, how did it go down, all this, and what Kristopher did or didn't do, what he knew. But is it also likewise true that one of the constant themes for hours and hours and hours of interrogation is that this was only going to be a robbery?
Yes.
Did you, all right, go to the second day, well, it's same first meeting, but now we're getting late, past midnight. So September 5, 12:46 a.m. When he keeps pressing you, trying to figure out who is this guy so they can go arrest him, did you make a statement to him that you only know him as Lamar?
Yes.
You told Detective Barnes that, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was a lie, correct?
Yes.
You knew that Detective Barnes was investigating a capital murder offense, correct?
Not at that time.
You knew he was he made it very clear he was looking at a murder, didn't you?
But I didn't know it was capital.
You knew that.
It was a murder, yes.
You knew Detective Barnes was investigating a murder.
Yes.
And Detective Barnes made it clear to you that it was very important. You know, your answers matter because it's a very important investigation, correct?
Correct.
You knew murder is about as serious as it gets, correct?
Correct.
Did you make a statement to him, going back late that evening, first interview, 2:06 a.m., that you didn't do anything but drive?
That's correct.
Did you tell him somebody else killed her?
Yes, I did.
And then following up with that, did you say, I don't know this guy, I don't personally know him, but say that you can show his face to them?
Yes.
At one point in time, after you tell the police this, is it in fact true that they say, well, if you can identify this man, we'd like to show you some photos? Did they tell you that?
Yes.
Just like we see on TV, did they show you some pictures of people? Did they?
Yes.
Did they ask you about one of them?
Yes.
And did you identify one of them as the shooter?
Yes.
And did he ask you, are you sure? And did you say yes?
Yes.
And did Detective Barnes ask you, how sure are you?
Yes, I remember.
Did he ask you that?
Yes.
When Detective Barnes, when you're saying, this man was the one who killed Dr. Hatcher, and Detective Barnes asked you, how certain are you? What did you tell Detective Barnes?
100% sure.
Well, close. You told him 99.9%, correct?
Yes.
So a man was shown to you, and he was an innocent man, correct?
He looked just like Kristopher Love.
Looked just like him.
Yes.
As a person just living in the world today, may we assume you're
He had the same type of hairstyle, so yes, I thought they were the one and the same.
So yes, what?
I thought they were one and the same.
You knew that wasn't Kristopher Love, didn't you?
No, I didn't really know. I really thought it was him. I later found out that it wasn't him.
You knew when you fingered the man that
No.
wasn't Kristopher Love.
I did not know at that time. I really thought that was Kristopher Love.
Well, is it a fair statement other than he's a younger black man, he doesn't look anything like Kristopher Love?
He didn't. same type of hairstyle, and that's why I didn't find him like
You
that.
specifically commented that he had cut his dreadlocks off and changed his hairstyle, correct?
No, I don't remember that.
Well, Chris, among all these things, Detective Barnes asked you, did he have any tattoos? What'd you tell him?
Not that I remember.
Not that you remember. Kristopher Love, on the other hand, is covered in tattoos, isn't he?
I can't really recall.
Well, at the time when you were seeing him, at the time when you're riding in the car with him, at the time when you're doing all this surveillance with him, at the time when you're meeting him, at the times when you're supposedly planning this out, you had more than ample opportunity to see what the man looked like, correct?
Yes, but I never paid attention to see if he had tattoos or not.
They're on his neck,
But I never
correct?
paid attention.
Would it be a true statement that it would be almost impossible to sit and talk to the man without seeing his tattoos?
No, because he was darker.
What do you mean he's dark?
He was darker when I seen him. He was like darker complected.
All right. In any event, you spent 2 weeks with Kristopher Love, and when you fingered that man, an innocent man, you knew this man was innocent, and you fingered him for
I
murder.
didn't.
I'm going to
didn't.
object, Your Honor, that that's been asked and answered. She told me she thought she picked up the right guy.
Sustained.
And you told the police.
I thought I picked out the right guy.
If you were trying to get, let's back up. If you were trying to give them the right guy, you're really trying to do the right thing. Why didn't you just tell him his name's Kristopher Love?
I didn't know his last name.
All right, Kristopher, instead of Lamar. I'll give you one. Why didn't you just say, the man who did this, here's his phone number. If you got my phone, I'll pick it up. That would have made sure the innocent man didn't get accused of murder, wouldn't it?
I guess so. I didn't think of it.
And you didn't do it, did you?
I didn't think of doing it that way.
Well, you certainly knew that the police were listening to you when you were fingering this man in a photograph, saying you were 99.9% certain that you thought he was the guy. And you knew it would be very easy to tell the police who was the right guy instead of the wrong guy. And you didn't do any of it, did you?
I thought I picked the right guy out.
How about this? Did you say, Detective Barnes, I'll tell you what. This looks like the man I'm not.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line of
Let's
questioning.
move along, Mr. Milner.
How about this? Detective Barnes, let's do this. If you'll take me down to the Mandalay Apartments, I'll show you where the shooter lives. And then you figure out who he is.
If you look at the interview and later on, I did tell him that.
You didn't tell him that until long after that, correct?
But I did tell him later on, correct?
Later on, is it a fair statement? You say later on.
Right.
This fluid, evolving story. As you get cornered like a rat, you start telling another
I'm going to
lie.
object to the characterizations of Mr. Miller.
Sustained.
As you get hopelessly caught in one lie, you start telling another one, correct?
Sometimes. When I was being interviewed because I didn't know what to say and what not to say.
You certainly knew you weren't telling the truth. Right?
Correct.
You certainly knew that some innocent person might get accused of a very serious crime, and then what do they tell their family, correct?
Well, I thought I picked out the right
All right, we're going
person.
to move on from this issue.
When that occurred, that interview there that I'm asking you about, with the photos, September 17th, there's a following interview 2 weeks later on October 1. You recall that?
Yes.
That one, again, is in the evening time. Did you again deny to the police that you knew who Kristopher the shooter was?
Yes.
on September 17th, again when Detective Barnes is interviewing you, did he make a statement to you that he was going to get into your phone records?
Yes.
And did he tell you he's going to be able to see who you called and who called you?
Correct.
Did he ask you if you ever called the man?
If I ever called who?
Called the shooter?
Yes.
Did you deny that you had called the shooter?
Yes.
Did you deny many times that you had called the shooter?
Yes.
And those were all lies, weren't they?
Yes.
In the same interviews, following up from that line, did Barnes say when he gets the records, he's going to be able to look at your phone and see what you were doing?
Yes.
Did he then tell you that there's something that happened on September 2 that you don't want me to see?
Yes.
What was based on your conversation, what was he referring to?
The picture of the money.
Do you think that's what he was referring to, that he didn't want to see?
Yes.
That you didn't want him to see?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Cortez, is it a true statement that the picture of the money still exists?
It wasn't my phone, so it's an evidence. I believe so.
All right. What he was talking about was what happened on September 2, and Detective Barnes said there's something that happened on September 2, and you don't want me to see it. He's talking about the murder, but why is he saying, bringing up something on September 2 and he can't see it, you don't want him to see it?
And I'm going to object to, it would be speculation is what Detective Barnes.
Did he specifically tell you he knew you had erased your phone after September 2? More specifically, that he believed late in the day on September 3rd you had reset your phone?
Yes.
Did you then start telling, once he knew that, once he confronted you with that, did you then start trying to explain how Brenda had your phone?
She did have my phone.
Did you try to explain to Barnes that Brenda had made those phone calls?
Yes, but also Barnes thought that I changed numbers, and I didn't change numbers. I switched phones because my other phone had broke.
When did you switch phones?
I was with Brenda when I switched phones, and the LG that was in evidence belonged to Brenda Delgado. I had a Samsung previously.
All right. But you started telling him that Brenda made those calls on your phone.
Yes.
And that was also a lie.
Not technically a lie, because some of the calls that she did make on my phone were to the shooter. Yes, she did use my phone.
But you knew that you were lying when she said that she had your phone all day, is what you told Detective Barnes, correct?
Okay, she didn't have my phone all day, but I was with her for the majority of the day.
Right. I have a phone. The lady seated to my right has a phone. We're together, but she doesn't have my phone. Would you agree with that?
No, because she would have my phone.
All right. The bottom line is, when he kept confronting you with all these lies, your go-to position was to blame Brenda.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Well, that's true. You blamed Chris and made up a bunch of stuff, but when she confronts you with this phone stuff, your go-to deal is to blame Brenda.
Not all the time.
Most of the time.
Okay,
Right?
that's a fair statement.
Did you give the police, you said that there was 2 phones you had, did you give both of them to the police?
I lost a Samsung because it was broke, and the other phone was the LG that Brenda gave me.
He also asked you about why you're switching SIM cards too, correct?
Metro PCS doesn't have SIM cards. You call customer service, and you just tell customer service, I want to get my number switched from this from this phone to this phone. And they ask you for the make and the model, and it's done. He thought I switched numbers, and I told him that I did not switch numbers. I switched phones because my Samsung broke.
When did that happen?
I was with Brenda. We were at the Exxon off of 35.
I asked you when, not where.
I can't exactly remember when, but it was prior to the murder.
We use the murder as a date. How much prior to the murder?
Maybe about a week.
All right, so a week prior to the murder, so that's going to take us to about August 25, 26, give or take.
Give or take.
You switched phones, and so you've got a phone
Yes.
that you're now using,
Yes.
and you keep continuous use of that phone from about a week before the murder until you allow the police to download the information that is in the phone.
Correct.
That occurred on September 4, correct?
Yes.
But the phone had been erased by some means sometime on September 3 of 2015, correct?
Yes.
Is it true that that is what Detective Barnes was asking about?
Well, I didn't know that that's what Detective Barnes was talking about. I thought he was talking about the picture of the heart with the money.
He's talking about a murder, and he's asking you about your cell phone. Why is it in your mind that you're thinking that's what he's talking about, as opposed to the fact that the phone drive has been erased following the murder?
I didn't know that that's what he was talking about.
Permission to approach.
Let's take a brief recess. It's 1:45, coming back in the room one.
All rise.
Wait. We're not done with you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the call.
What is the issue that you're impeaching her on?
Are we on the record, Judge?
No.
Well, she's going back and forth with this stuff about correcting the cell phone and all this. Blaming Brenda. It's this line of topic. We've got that.
Well, what's the specific question? He already made me see it.
She denied about the SIM card.
What's
Let me see the words.
What's the exact statement that the defendant she made? You have to confirm it.
Ms. Cortez, on September 17, 2015 at 2:17 p.m. on one of these interviews you had with the police, did Detective Barnes ask you why you took the chip out?
The SIM card or the SD card, because Metro PCS does not have a SIM card.
He specifically asked, why did you take the chip out?
I guess he was referring to the SD card.
Well, he asked chip.
What happened to the SD card?
I had put it in my pocket.
Right. Did he ask you, did you say that it was already out when you got there?
Yes, it was.
Did you say you took it out the night before because you were going to put it in Ivan's phone?
Yes.
What would the SD card do differently, and why would you put it in Ivan's card?
The
Phone.
SD card contains photos, and I was going to put it in Ivan's phone because it's where you use to store music and pictures. It's a black SD card.
It's this exchange that we would like to play in front of the jury
For what purpose?
to show what she said back then.
She just said it right now.
The best evidence is the video of when this thing happened 4 years ago.
The best evidence is her sitting right there on the witness stand saying what happened. All right. We're in recess until 2 o'clock.
See if I can find her son.
Oh, there's a water dispenser and I don't know. I don't think he has cups, but.
I agree. Confirm.
Do you need to use the restroom or anything? Make sure that the jurors are.
Where's everybody going? We're only in recess for 5 more minutes. Where's everybody going?
You gotta ask Tim.
Get a girl just one.
Oh, okay. I thought,
No, because y'all were talking. I just want to see what you
Are we starting? Okay, yeah, she's just gonna get some water real quick and then put her back on the stand.
we've got some water coming. Well, I just got.
She's going into the holdover.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out here.
Okay, I'm just gonna get something along.
Well, no, I just didn't want to take with this one. Not exactly sure. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And any
Thank you.
Appreciate it.